The illuminate took the poorly looking portal and now they're among us. So what are the best primary weapons to handle them and the worst ones? Starting off with the purifier. This thing can two-shot overseers even through their shield. Is crazy versus the horde clear, which is a big deal. It does essentially everything you want it to. Not amazing versus ship shields, which that could change in the future, but that's the only real downside. It can also break harvesters' shields really quickly, and in around 4 shots, it can break their horn, which deactivates their shield generation in general. Overall, it is S tier, the single best gun versus illuminate. The Jar 5, it has me feeling like Steve Buscemi with the ergonomics, but it can one-shot overseers, two-shot the horns on harvesters, break their shield in roughly half a magazine, and you could kill them with the remaining magazine if you land all your shots, which is way easier said than done. You can also break these ship shields very quickly, which not many guns can do that while also being great against other factors of the illuminate. The one thing it's not crazy good at is chaff clear. You one-shot the voteless, but you only get 15 shots. For all them qualities, I'd give it A tier. Torture gives you an RPG ability, fire floor. Shoot the ground, the voteless walk through it, and they just die moments later. And the fire on the ground lasts for a decent enough time. Doing an objective, typing in some numbers and whatnot, you put fire around you, and it'll kill all the voteless enemies, the small dudes. Against the overseers, if you direct blast them for a bit, they'll die. It takes roughly a quarter, maybe 1/5 of your fuel capacity. And you can kill harvesters, but I don't recommend it. If you aren't wearing arc resist armor, you'll be taking so much damage, it's just not worth it. If you aren't wearing the new armor that gives you 50% reduced arc damage, flame damage, so on and so forth, you're going to be dead in a second. And even with that armor, if you don't stim, you'll die to the next hit, most likely. So being close range to harvesters isn't ideal, is the point here. But overall, I give the gun a B for the horde clearing capabilities. Killzone collab weapon, accelerator rifle. Handles amazingly. You can 2-burst overseers. Going for headshots isn't advised. You break the shields on harvesters in a time frame that is less than ideal. You can break the horn in 1 burst if you land, I believe, all 3 shots in the burst. Ship destroying capabilities aren't great, and the horde killing capabilities aren't great either. I would give it like a solid C. If they increase the damage, it'd be B or A. If they increase the ammo capacity, it'd just be a purifier with a scope. Scorcher is the mini-me to Purifier's Dr. Evil. It's still really good, but just nowhere near as strong. Smaller blast radius, smaller damage output, but it still does what you want it to do. For that reason, I'm gonna give it an A. Sickle, also known as sickle, is pretty good at breaking shields on the ships. Takes roughly half a magazine. It shoots really fast, so that isn't a huge time sink. You technically have infinite ammunition if you don't overshoot. Breaking harvester shields, roughly a quarter magazine. You can use your primary or your support weapon and kill them out. Take them out. Versus the voteless, it can kill them quickly, sure, but you'll be running away from hordes for a while if you only use this to kill them. I give it a solid B. There's a few reasons why so many guns are in the use it if you like it tier. The main one being their light penetration, which means you can't headshot overseers, you can't kill the harvesters or even break their horn to disable the shield. You're essentially useless. Unless you have other qualities that are good, there's no reason to bring those weapons unless you like it. Which the name of the tier says, use it if you like it. But realistically, comparing it to weapons that are 10 times better, how could they be higher on the list? Unless I'm just giving out participation medals. Like, you're a gun in the game. Congratulations, you're awesome. They're weapons in a video game. We can be a bit more objective. At least I think. Speaking of which, Liberator Penetrator. Takes roughly 5 shots to kill an overseer if they're all headshots, which a lot of folks ain't hitting those. You're in the thick of it. Things are happening, getting chased down by a bunch of voteless, and there's multiple overseers. How effective is this gun going to be in that situation? Answer, not very. Not to mention, when you're scoped in and shooting it, you can't shoot it quickly. You're going to tap fire it. If you're tap firing an assault rifle, you may as well use a marksman rifle that does way more damage in a single shot. The adjudicator does more damage, still the same issue. Doesn't do enough damage, and you even have, I think, the same ammo or close to it. The accuracy still isn't great when you're shooting it quickly, so the assault rifle situation isn't looking good for this weapon either. Killzone STA-11 SMG is essentially the night SMG with some very slight changes. If you lack the idea of taking half a magazine to kill one overseer, this is a gun for you. Also, the range isn't going to be great because it's an SMG. That's sort of the intention they have going for it. Killzone STA 40 or 50 something assault rifle is basically the Liberator. More closer to that than the SMG was to the Knight. This thing is in the same vein. Takes roughly half magazine to kill an overseer, and it's light penetration. So you're useless against the majority of other things against illuminate. And the funny thing is we're just facing the initial waves of illuminate. I don't imagine light penetration weapons being better when more enemies get added. More complex ones too. I'm not knocking the weapon. I'm just saying if you fancy getting maximum 14 kills on voteless of all enemies with one magazine, this is the weapon for you. Constitution takes 2 headshots on overseers. Can't even one-shot body shot the voteless. You have to go for headshots on those guys. So it definitely fulfills the whole challenge weapon shtick that folks assign to it. DCS requires 2 headshots as well, but has a lot more ammunition and also can't one-shot the voteless. So it does the same thing, it just gives you more ammunition to do that thing with, to the tune of 3 times more ammunition. We'll say it's C tier. Reprimand. The SMG that you can still miss enemies when you're dead on their face. Slugger. It has range inaccuracies, so you can't be sniping the overseers, which you would be able to, but it will just miss. Plasma Punisher is out of excuses. 4 shots against an overseer, 4 shots against the flying Snitcheroo Roomba 5000. Right there, that thing. Where is the redeeming quality of the weapon? I just don't see it. Apparently it can stun harvesters, but like, you could just kill them. I guess that's kind of neat. Still doesn't make it any better, because it takes 2 shots to kill voteless, and it doesn't have that big of a blast radius. Yeah, this is not a weapon that folks can recommend in with good intentions. The halt can stun the Snitcheroo 5000. Still doesn't make it that great, because the damage output is very inconsistent. You'll be switching modes, which I don't have the keybind to make it fancier. I should probably get that actually. And I had times where I had 1 shot, I think, but it wasn't often. Blitzer has targeting issues. If things are too close to you, which these guys press W expeditiously, it just won't hit anything sometimes. And even when you have a giant crowd like this, you're firing into it, getting very low kills in return. That is a lot of investment, a lot of time investment for not much dying. And when it comes to the overseers, you can kill them in roughly 3 shots, but it doesn't seem to stun. They're just pressing W. Once the armor plate's gone, I think it does stun. If you single out the overseer and you break the armor plate, you can stun it. But in a crowd, you can't aim the arc blitzer. You can only encourage it to go and hit things you want it to hit. There's going to be a lot of voteless, and as we saw earlier, you couldn't kill that many of them in a crowd, let alone be stripping the armor on the overseers with any consistency. Scythe seemingly has no real upsides when compared to the sickle. Sure, you set things on fire, but you don't have very much charge to do so with. If you don't hit headshots, they will not die very quickly. You cannot headshot the overseers, which means you can't light them on fire, and you just can't get headshot damage. That's very unfortunate. Body shot damage wise, I didn't actually see what it could do, and I can't test right now because the illuminate is currently gone. I still don't think I'd rock it, considering you don't break ship shields fast either. It does not have much of anything going for it from what I can tell. Cookout, the thing I can't go to because I don't season my eggs, is not as good as folks make it out to seem. You do not get to kill the overseers very quickly. You can stun them, which is neat. And you also don't kill the voteless as fast as people are saying it does. I shot into a crowd and killed 60 dudes. How many times? Because a single pellet will not kill the majority of enemies you set on fire. And when you're shooting to a crowd, the enemies in front will block the enemies behind them. It's like a voteless phalanx with no shields. Like, their bodies are the shields. So that's not really true. Ensign Breaker. Same exact situation. The difference to Cookout is that you don't have as good ammo economy, but you have better burst damage. So you can kill the overseers faster. Eruptor. Not particularly good against the overseers. Takes 2 shots to kill them, at least in my experience. Maybe there's some crazy foot tech I'm not aware of. You can hit the ground just barely. Also nick the big toe and it's dead in 1 shot. I don't know. You can reload cancel. You can cock cancel. Trademarked. if you switch guns after you shoot the eruptor shots. What? I could switch guns and just have a lot more fun playing the game by doing it before the mission actually starts. Crazy stuff, I know. It's just not great versus the voteless. It's not great versus the overseers. I use it a little bit versus the harvesters. I didn't see crazy results, but I wasn't very invested. Crossbow has a massive blast radius, so you're taking out the voteless at a faster rate than you would the purifier, but way less quills in your quivern. You can two-shot the overseers. It'll be harder to hit the shots, and again, way less ammunition. You can, however, close the ships if you break the shields with the crossbow, which means you wouldn't have to bring the grenade pistol, although grenade pistol makes the most sense to bring as a secondary, as a little tip. I'd say crossbow is at the top of A tier. For those wondering why I'm not covering every single weapon versus illuminate, I don't want to waste your time. There's no reason to. Look at the liberator carbine, a gun that isn't very good in the game, and look at the STA-52 assault rifle. They're almost the same thing. The liberator carbine, almost the same thing. The liberator concussive, you get more ammo, but you lose damage. So it's, again, almost the same thing. It's the same thing, but different in not a great way. And then for the guns that are medium pin, because all these guns, liberator, the concussive, the STA-52, and the liberator carbine, they're all light penetration guns. The assault rifle's playable? Nah, bad word. That's a bad word, brother. Playable and viable are like the same thing, and everything's playable. Considering that in this game, you use multiple items to achieve victory. So what happens is people will use a weapon that's pretty bad, but they'll make up for it with their build in most cases. So the weapon is still being used. It's still viable because you can beat the game using the weapon, but in reality, they're using a bunch of other stuff to make it work. And you can also win the game without using much of anything right now. Illuminate, bring gas grenade, supply backpack. Like, you just win. Okay, so you could use your SMG. I'll use my gas grenade. Whoa, guys, the SMG is freaking crazy. Oh my gosh. You're ruining my clip. The SMG, look at that, 30 kills. This SMG is nuts. Dude, are you serious right now? This SMG is busting beyond belief, dude. Are you serious right? 47? Brother. It just keeps climbing. The bullets are curving or something. These are my rankings for the primary weapons against the illuminate. If you have some disagreements, it's all well and dandy. Use what you like. But I have one question. If the weapon you like using got buffed, would it be a good or a bad thing? Because if you say it's the best thing ever, probably won't get buffed. If you're more realistic, it might. Be a tough ask because primary weapons, they don't seem to want to buff those too much. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a Merry Christmas.